Okay, welcome back to this very awkward stage of the beginning of these videos. Um, my name is Ryan. I'm 32. I'm a recovering drug addict, and I feel like I have information and life tools that I'd like to share with anyone else who's struggling or knows someone who's struggling, and get these things out there. A little bit about me is, I was a heroin addict for the last 13 years. I was an IV user, and then in the last 2 years, I was a fentanyl IV user and meth, and I was also taking Xanax that I was first prescribed as Valium. I was taking a benzodiazepine Valium as prescription a few years ago, and then I ended up finding the street form of Xanax where they press it into bars, and I got hooked on that as well. Um, so I've been off of everything for a little over 6 months now. It's on my phone that I have a sobriety date app, which is pretty cool. Um, it alerts you and lets you know of landmarks that you've achieved and whatnot. And it's a big thing. It's a big accomplishment. Being a drug addict and being able to find the strength to want to change and be able to pull out of that very immoral, very valueless, animalistic type of behavior. Um, I think where I wanted to start today with this video was talk a little bit about my withdrawal. Kind of put it into perspective for people out there who are curious or are afraid to go through it or have family that's going through it. Tell you this, I've gone through opiate withdrawals a number of times, and I used things such as Suboxone and Methadone, which are designed to pretty much attach to your opioid receptors. Hopefully, I'm correct on this. I'm not a scientist, and my only level of expertise is my experience. And there is value to that, but so like I said, I'm not gonna go too deep on how the science behind how this works, what's going on, but I can tell you what it feels like, and I could explain personal experience, right? So say this, I used Suboxone and Methadone a few times in the past to help ease the effects of heroin withdrawal. I'll tell you this much: I was on Suboxone for a few months, and when you go to a Suboxone doctor, they pretty much test you out with a little bit at first. They come in a strip form here in California. They used to come in a stop sign shaped pill, and but those are far and few these days. So it's mostly strips. And they come in all kinds of milligrams and whatnot. The ones I was on were 8 milligrams. They started me with half a strip. I barely felt it, and at the time it wasn't easing the withdrawal effect, and so then they gave me more. And what happened was I ended up abusing the system in the sense where you go to a doctor and you tell them you don't feel good. They'll give you something that makes you feel good, or they'll give you enough of something. And that's what I did, and I ended up taking 3 8 milligram Suboxone strips a day, and I was on 8 milligrams of Ativan. What that did for me was it more or less kept me going. It kept me away from the dangers of overdosing on heroin, and it kept me out of the lifestyle of hanging out with sketchy people and people that only want to get a fix or money, you know. And that's the good side of it. Suboxone, you could kind of get into a work. I had a job. I was doing document control and for a company up North California, and you know, it only got me so far spiritually. It got me so far as actual growth as a human being, um, and eventually, I was depending on it to cope with lots of things. So that's why they call it a crutch, because you're not crawling anymore, you're not immobile, but you're also not running anymore, and or you're not running, right? You're stumbling by on a crutch, and you know, so you end up not developing the proper coping skills for everyday life. Um, Something as simple as waking up with all the natural energy that we have to for me personally, what that felt like was waking up with a panic attack and anxiety, and instead of learning how to cope with that and and adjust my lifestyle to a way where I could recognize that and I know what to do, I would go straight to taking Suboxone. That led to doing that in other areas of my life, such as, you know, getting mad at someone, not having the patience for people, not having the drive to do stuff, the willingness to do stuff. Um, and it eventually led to me relapsing and not being happy with life and thinking life is drab and life is, you know, not worth living. So I went back to heroin and, you know, um, and then I, it lasted for a while. Eventually got onto methadone. Methadone's a similar style crutch, except what I noticed with methadone is that it affects you a lot harder than Suboxone, and especially if your go-to is opiates. Methadone will give you that opiate effect. It makes you very tired, and the thing with methadone clinics is you go to a methadone clinic and they give you a certain amount in the beginning. That way you don't overdose. That's what they say, and then if you all you have to do to get more is say, I need more. I can't feel it. And most addicts are going to do that. That's why a lot of people at methadone clinics are taking very high doses. And but again, methadone is a useful crutch in the sense that when I was on methadone, I worked a normal job, worked an everyday job, had an everyday schedule, took care of myself, paid my bills, paid my taxes, you know. I was by most means blended in with society as a upstanding citizen or a contributing member of society. But spiritually dead. And also coping skills gone. And what ended up happening was I ended up relapsing again. So on heroin. So that's my experience with those two uh, modern day tools to help a person get away from the drug addiction lifestyle, help them get into society. But as far as becoming a spiritually enjoyable human being, um, it has its limits. You won't be running with a crutch. You'll be limping. Um, so fast forward years, I went from heroin use to fentanyl use. Fentanyl's a very scary drug. It's a very scary thing. I'll probably make a video going in depth with that as far as how I was getting it and what it looked like and all the forms that it comes in. It's quite there's some interesting information on that. As far as that goes, I'll leave most of that for another video. But I wanted to get fast forward to the withdrawal. The withdrawal, and I was doing speed. I was doing about I was doing zero point 0.3 of fentanyl 2 to 3 times a day, IV use. And what I would do was I would even that out with speed. I do the same amount, and I do that intravenously. And then I was taking, on average, about 2 Xanax bars a day. So I was in for it. I'll tell you that much. I had a experience. The last time I used, I had an experience where I woke up after about 2 hours after using the drug, and I woke up and I had a vision, a very powerful vision, that I had less than a week to live. In my mind, it looks like I had exactly 4 days left to live. And what I saw was, I in a weird abstract way, I saw each day span out in front of me, and then on one of the days it was half a day, and it was very small and empty. Each day was emptier. It was like a very empty, cold corridor with all my days left lined up. It was a very bizarre vision, but I'll tell you this much: it shook my core. It shook a hardcore IV opiate speed addict. It shook my core to the point where I got up and I made the conscious decision that I want to live my life, and I want to experience actual life. Since I saw how fast this life could go, I felt like I robbed myself of actually being able to experience life. So I made that choice to not accept the short time span, and not accept that I have to be this way. And I came to my mom's house, and I pretty much said I'm done, and I went upstairs to my room and I laid down. And what was bizarre was that the hard opiate withdrawals and Xanax withdrawals didn't even start to affect me until day 3, which is a lot different than heroin withdrawals. Heroin withdrawals, within 24 hours, you're starting to feel sick. Your body's your nervous, as my understanding is that your nervous system isn't properly relaying electrical signals between your opioid receptors in your brain and to an extent, your whole nervous system is out of whack. Um, you got the chills, cold sweats. You're sick. You're puking. Um, your bowel movements are crazy. Uh, and your temperature is completely going up, fluctuating. Well, that didn't start until day 3, but at the same time, what hit me was a very bad psychosis from the meth. Um, methamphetamine causes psychosis, and I don't know much about this at all scientifically, but for me, pretty much, I had to go to the 24. I had to go to the emergency department room, and I went there. My mom took me there, and I was slowly slipping into this madness of like everything around me was becoming very abstract, very surreal, and the goal was to get medical assistance for the detox. But I didn't know that the psychosis was going to be this intense. And what ended up happening was they took me into the emergency room and brought me upstairs to. I'll be honest. I don't know where they brought me. I thought I was in an elevator. At one point, I thought I was in space. At one point, I thought I was underground. There's very bizarre things were going on, and I'm not going to dive too deep into that because it's just you're almost talking about delusional, abstract states of hallucinatory of the brain. It's almost like words fall very short, and there's no point in delving into it. But I'll tell you, I was out of my mind, and pretty much I was there for 5 days. It was a very interesting experience. I remember my in the back of my head, the most important thing to do was to eat as much food as I can. I knew that my body was depleted, and the only way to get it to start feeling better was to eat food and get as much nutrients as possible. And so that was my only focus during the 5 days in there. What ended up happening was they took me. Took a taxi back home to my mom's house, and I was here for 2 weeks, and I'm telling you, the sleep that I got didn't really exist. I would get 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and that lasted for 15 days. So I'm already on day 20. Still no true sleep. Still irregulated nervous system, and I think this was a compound effect of coming off of the Xanax, the benzodiazepines. They have for some reason they sink into long-term detox from your body. They sink into your body for a very long time, and getting a regular cycle back is extremely difficult. So all I suggest at that point is that you got to get into the mind state that this is your choice, and that no matter what, you're not gonna choose to be the Walking Dead anymore. Even if you feel better, are you truly living life? Personally, I don't think so. I think living life is being a human being, and I'll probably go into that on a different video as well. Because there's a lot of difference between being human and being an animal and being a creature of compulsion. There's a huge difference between being a conscious human being and when we choose to be conscious, we're no longer compulsive with our behavior. When you're on drugs, you're 100% compulsive. All conscious will is for the most part very far. It's a very far reach. So remind yourself, if you're going through this or you know someone's going through this, remind yourself um, that your strength will come back. That's a big one. Your strength will come back. It's going to take some time. And that's, you don't need to think about it more than that. Don't let your weird way of thinking at this point, your ill rationalizations and ill logic, don't let that affect the fact that you will get stronger. There's very rare cases. There are cases where people they overdose. I've been hearing the stories of fentanyl addicts. They overdose and they go into a coma state and then they come out a vegetable. So there's that too. But if you're conscious enough to be hearing this video, just keep eating food and drinking water, and you know what I like to do. I like to listen to music when I was detoxing. You start seeking outside help. So I was here for 15 days after the 5 days in the psych ward. What I ended up doing was getting help to get into a rehab center, an inpatient rehab center. What I did there, there are lots of resources, especially if you have Medi-Cal. There's a lot of resources to get into a rehab facility, but sometimes you have to wait. I was on a waiting list for a while. It got to the point where I was waiting for over a week, and I, my mom was nice enough to help me get into rehab. So there's that route too, but if you don't have anyone around you that could help you, there are Department of Health Services. So it's as simple as going onto Google and searching for behavioral services and Department of Health Services, and taking it from there. But if you're at the point where you can't even get out of bed, but maybe if you're at the point where you can't get out of bed, sometimes you just have to fight. You have to stay centered, no matter how weak you feel physically. In your mind, you've got to stay focused on one thing, and that is that I am slowly becoming a human being again. I'm slowly becoming human being again, and being able to get my life back. And then just focus on those things. Listen to music, eat a lot of food. Try to eat a lot of healthy food, and a lot of, for me personally, I need a lot of high fat food, and it wasn't even, not all of it was healthy. I ate a lot of pizza and fast food, whatever I could get my hands on, basically anything. But I just knew I needed food. So anyways, that's I think I'm gonna end there. I'm gonna add I'll make more videos about the rehab experience. I don't want to give too much information at once and overload anyone who's watching this. But yeah, if you guys like the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and that'll help at least give me some kind of notion as to if this is coming out clearly, or what to do next, those kinds of things. Anyways, have a good day.